Welcome back if you've joined us before. And I know we have several family members who it's their first time joining us for a family association webinar. So we're thrilled to have all of you here. I wanted to start out by reminding everybody that we are recording this webinar. So later this week, you'll receive an email with a link, but it will be posted on our Family Resources webpage. So if you ever need to refer back, or if you know somebody who you think would be interested in this information but wasn't able to attend, you are welcome to share that with them as well. Just a few housekeeping things. Please submit any questions that you might have for any of our presenters into the chat, and I will ask those at the end of the two presentations that we have. And I think that's all that I have. So for any of you that don't know me, my name is Jenny Gibson, and I'm the Director of Family Engagement and Philanthropy here at Alfred. You've heard of me at least because you got the email to register for this, but we're in the first year of having our family association here, and we're so thrilled to be getting to know you a little better and hopefully improving your relationship to Alfred University. That's always our goal. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic, the proverbial mic, over to Tom Orange, who is the Dean of Student Experience here at Alfred University.
All right, well, good afternoon, welcome. Again, my name is Tom Orange, Dean for Student Experience here at Alfred. One of the things that we like to try to do is kind of make connections with parents, understanding that you may have questions that your students may not always have the answers for, and or you might have things that your student might not be telling you that you just are interested in knowing about. So what we try to do is kind of make those connections directly to the parents at times. What we want to see from our students is that they kind of go through this process of development over their 4 years while they're here, and move from being dependent upon their parents to where they're much more independent in their lives. But we understand that that transition sometimes takes 4 years. So we're fine with that. Constantly trying to support your student in making their decisions and finding out who they are, but at the same time wanting to reach out to parents and let them know what's going on and what some of the things that we have here to offer. And again, if you find that your student is in need of one of these services, at least you're aware of what we have on campus. We also try to send out the Parent Association newsletter to also follow up on that. So again, to kind of keeping that constant contact. So thank you for being here today. And if you do have questions, either concerning what the presentations are today or any other types of presentations or other questions that you may have, feel free to reach out to me. It's orange@alfred.edu, and it's orange with 2 R's. I'm happy to get back to you to answer any questions that you might have or any concerns that you might have. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tom. So now I would like to pass it over to Christopher Galsey, who is the Director of the Center for Academic Success.
Thanks, all. So I'm just going to share my screen quick. Let's see. Oops. Okay, share screen. And okay, you should all be seeing. Okay, excellent. So I just first want to introduce you all to my staff. I won't get too long into it, but I think it'll just be helpful to put some names to the services that I'm going to be describing here today. So our Center for Academic Success, we actually have 12 staff members, which might seem like a lot, but once you hear about all the wealth of resources that we offer, may make a little bit more sense. So our first person I want to introduce was Bailey Durante. She is our secretary and oversees our exam proctoring. Sarah Pratt, our summer bridge coordinator. Jackie Eason, our assistant director. Chloe Hansen, our director of the writing center. Skylar, and we have 7 graduate assistants who are working in the school psychology program, getting their master's or doctorates. So Skylar's sister, Gwen Dick, Allison Hillig Hanarenzi, Jenna Ortlib, Galen Diego, Michaela, and then finally myself, the director of the Center for Academic Success. So I kind of skipped quickly through all of those names, but I'll kind of reiterate those names as we talk about their services. So AU Advantage is our summer bridge program that Sarah Pratt, our summer bridge coordinator, oversees. And what that summer bridge program is our 4-week transition program. Students are taking college bearing courses. So 3 that count towards graduation. 2 credits are for like a writing course or a pre-calculus course. And the 1 credit is a college success skills. So I understand that everyone here are parents of students. So I wanted to make this presentation as applicable to you. How can you refer your students to this? So the big takeaway is we are hiring for summer peer leaders. So if your student is looking to stay on campus for a month, it's from July 6th to August 3rd. There is an employment opportunity. So tell them to send their resume to Sarah Pratt, as we are still looking for some of those peer leaders. The nice thing with this, especially if they're looking for that employment piece, is that they'll be working with incoming students. 1, just like making those social connections, but 2, also helping them scaffold into their first year here at AU. So a lot of these students are kind of looking for that social development as well as that academic component. We'll do some weekend trips, which I found our peer leaders really been excited about. So last summer, we took students to Six Flags, was our big trip. We took them to Foster Lake, Corning Glass Museum, and of course, the last one's going to elude me, but a lot of fun activities that students can make some more organic connections with. The big thing that I oversee is the academic accommodations, and I wanted to give everyone a better picture of how that operates. So if you have a student who has a documented disability, whether that's an IEP, a 504 plan, or a disability from a medical doctor or provider, they can request accommodations through the Center for Academic Success. Some just common accommodations but not limited to are extended time on exams, reduced distraction environment, maybe use of a computer. So maybe a student using dictation or having the exams read aloud is an option. So how that process would work is the student completes the request form, which can be found on our Center for Academic Success website, as well as submitting any documentation from their provider. Once that documentation is submitted, I'll reach out. So if we're talking about this time period, I would reach out as soon as possible. If the semester ends, I'll still be here in the summer and setting up meetings during that time. In that meeting, really the conversation is just to try and understand a little bit more about how their disability impacts them academically. From there, I'll maybe make some additional recommendations. They may have said that they just want the extended time and reduce distraction environment. And maybe there's something else that I see where this could be a beneficial accommodation. I'll make that recommendation. Ultimately, the student has the decision of, yep, this is what I would like, or no, that's not what's needed, Chris. And I give them the power of that. The one thing I always share with parents and students is the difference between the K through 12 system and higher education, whereas K through 12 is focused more on student success in the accommodation place. So you may see more accommodations related to altering the coursework, whether that's less problems or extended time on assignments, whereas in college, the focus is on access. So we would work on accommodations that help them get those assignments completed on those times. So, that use of computer and having exams or having coursework read aloud might help with that processing speed. And the reason we why the accommodation for like extended assignments might be rare is oftentimes you need to have that work produced for that class. The professor's discussing the homework in that lecture, or to be able to be an active participant, you need to have that information readily available. So that's just kind of one thing I want to share with everyone here today. So talking about the housing accommodations, and this one I see a little bit more frequently, the housing accommodations mirrors that process for academic accommodations, where students will need to submit provider documentation as well as a request form. Again, both of these can be found on our website. These accommodations are reviewed by our Disability Housing Committee, who Kara is also one of our members. And in that, we're really looking to see if the accommodation is needed for equal access. So I've kind of said that access component a couple times now. So really, I think a good example would be maybe a student who whether they're using crutches or using a wheelchair, right? We would move them to a residence hall so that's accessible for them, so they have that same opportunity to participate. One thing to note is that we do have guarantee dates for housing accommodations. So we can guarantee that those accommodations will be in place for the respective semesters. So for the fall semester, all accommodation requests need to be submitted by February 1st. The spring semester is December 1st. And those dates will stay the same semester by semester. And the reason for that is we can guarantee those students will select housing in advance to the rest of the students. For requests after those dates, we will certainly work to fulfill those requests, but I just can't guarantee that it will happen the following semester. It might be for our current students that are filling out requests. It might be that those accommodations get implemented in the spring semester. But again, our residence life team does a great job of trying to fulfill those while we can. Emotional support animals is a question I typically get frequently. So students, again, will submit that provider documentation as well as the request form. This one does not have a timeline of when they need to be completed by. I always recommend that it's easier to bring your animal. So doing it in the summer or a time when you're actually at home is best. The animal is not allowed on campus until it has been officially approved. The animals do need to be housebroken. So this is probably more speaking towards dogs. So they also, students will need to complete a alternative caregiver form. So in the event that they have to leave campus for whatever reason, like a medical leave or something like that. Usually it's their parent, they'll indicate. So just something to know. Sometimes I've had parents where like, oh, I wasn't even aware my student got an animal. So conversation to have with your student if they're talking about emotional support animals. These are also reviewed by the Disability Housing Committee. So Kara, I, and Jackie, our assistant director. The other thing to always note is that I am the person to work with for any temporary accommodations. So say your student breaks their wrist or broke their leg, I would help them navigate campus to some extent. So for that broken leg, working with them to move them to an accessible residence hall if they're not already in. I've moved some classrooms for students so that either it's on the first floor or in a building that has an elevator. Those broken wrists, we have a expansive amount of technologies that can help assist them, whether that's Glean, like a note-taking app, or some general recording devices. So I'll talk more about that when I hit the assistive tech piece, but just something to know if your student has an injury. So as Jenny was kind of talking to me about this thing, I was like, well, this is a great time to kind of brag about the services that we do. And so the one thing that we've been pretty successful in the past few years is getting some grants from the New York Department of Education. So what we really use this grant money for is really bolstering our assistive technologies. So we purchased a large amount of new smart pens. So I would encourage everyone to Google smart pens. They're called LiveScribe 3 is the one that we have. I'll describe it to my best ability, but I think this is one of those things. Once you actually see it in action, it's like, wow. Unfortunately, I hear from students they either love or they hate it. There really seems to be no middle ground. And part of it, I think, is that learning curve. But these smart pens pair with a smart notebook, and we provide the students each of these. We'll lend it out to them. And how that smart pen works is it syncs the audio with what they were writing at the time. So again, this is why it really makes sense to Google it and watch it in action. But it almost think of it as timestamps, where if you tap at the one part in your notebook, it'll go back to exactly where that person was talking. So I think that's a really helpful way to help some of our students with disabilities, whether they get distracted during note taking or need to, their handwriting isn't as fast as others. So I think that's a really helpful device. I mentioned how students either love or hate it. So we do have some lower tech options. We have some simple recording devices. But what was really nice about with this grant money was we were able to purchase some higher end recorders that were designed for lecture halls. Whereas at Alfred, obviously, we don't have as many lecture halls. So it works really well for those students who are sitting in the back or wherever they might be sitting. This past year, we purchased an online note-taking app called Glean, and we had a lot of excitement around this one. And this one, it looks in many regards as a simple note-taking app where, it has your header, it has bullet points, all of that. But really what sets Glean apart compared to its peers is that it has the ability to audio record. And with that audio recording, it creates an AI transcription of everything that was said. So if you wanted to go back and you're like, you know what, I loved how that professor defined that term, I'm going to copy and paste that in there. You can do so easily. I also like that Glean has a pictures embedded in, so you can do a quick search. And if you were taking an art history or whatever that class is, and you wanted a visual representation of that, you can embed it right into your notes. And this year that we're with this grant money, we're actually hiring a consultant to come to campus to kind of take a look at our policies and procedures and help align us with best practice. I hope that we're already there, but sometimes it's great to have that reassurance from another party. So that's an area that I've been really excited about in this past few years. So just to talk briefly about some of the outcomes with our students with disabilities, we found that our students actually have higher GPA and retention rates compared to our general population. And I share that it's not because we're lowering the learning outcomes of the courses, but rather I think it's the nature of our office. I mentioned how I connect with those students during the summer. And I found that I almost become their unofficial person to ask any question they have. Hey, I'm getting locked out of my email, Chris. Can you help me connect with ITS? Sure. So I think that's a big advantage that we have. So I would encourage you to all share with your students, whether they qualify with a disability or not, to still connect with my office, connect with some office on campus to help them with those academics. I found that really makes a big difference, just having that person they can trust and navigate some of the challenges they may be seeing. So now I'm going to kind of switch it more to those academic sports that are really open for every student on our campus. So my area, the Center for Academic Success, oversees all of the academic support. So Jackie Eason, if you remember her from, I think, our third slide, oversees our supplemental instruction program. And you can see there the courses we support: calculus, physics, chemistry. What I always share with students and parents is that the SI leader is embedded in the course, and they lead review sessions later in the evening. They're not re-lecturing, but they're giving additional practice problems to the course material. They work really closely with our faculty members, and some will even give them practice exams and practice quizzes. So there's a real advantage to attending that. The big takeaway I have there is bolded. So what I found is students who are attending 5+ sessions typically earn a letter grade higher compared to their non-attenders. So an A versus a B, B versus C, etc. And we've even found some success with those students who have attended typically 3 sessions. And it almost works out perfectly where 3 is probably the bare minimum for each exam review. So those exam reviews have been immensely powerful. So really encourage your students to connect early and often. I found some students maybe skew the data, and I'm always curious of looking in where I'm like, oh, this student attended 10 times. Why is his grade not compared to the others? And sometimes I unfortunately see that it's at the very end of the semester where a lot of those points have already been decided. So the key to all of these academic interventions is connect early and often. We also, in addition to supplemental instruction, have tutoring. Our tutoring is located in Herrick Library, and this is more one-on-one compared to SI. Our SI sessions are designed to be group by nature. We offer coverage 4 nights a week, and this is located in kind of Bookend Lounge. So Bookend Lounge, if you're not familiar, is kind of a more comfortable area. There's some soft seating. There's a Keurig machine. We've sponsored nights where we've did like coffee and cocoa and things like that. I didn't find the snacks to become as big of a driver to attending as much as I had hoped, but we'll be partnering with our libraries for finals week to do some of those snacks and beverages. So if nothing else, encourage your student to get a free snack at the very least, and they don't even have to talk to our tutors, maybe just do some work with them, or, body mirroring, if you will. So the courses that we have supported are wide ranging. Again, we have those math and physics covered. Chemistry, organic chemistry is a new one that we don't have supported through SI. We have a lot of business tutoring, finance, accounting, analytics. I didn't want to write everything out. It got very long, but so wide variety of business tutoring. Computer science 1 and 2, several engineering courses, and beyond that, we have what we refer to as the study buddies. So the study buddies are for courses that we don't have direct tutoring support for. So they almost operate as you would, as it sounds, as a study buddy. What I found with working with students is that oftentimes they've shared they don't know the information, but they have the resources that they can find it with the right support. So our study buddies will work with them using their notes, using their textbooks, using the course Canvas page to hopefully identify those. And at times they know their scope. So at times they may say, you know what, unfortunately, I don't think we can find this solution. So let's look at when your professor's office hours are, and they'll work with the student to make a plan to connect with their professor as soon as possible. But I found the study buddies have been really successful in aiding the students for those courses that we don't have direct tutoring for. And the real exciting piece that I found with the Study Buddy program is, while the usage is not as high as I would hope, the students who are attending multiple times. So to me, it tells me that there's something successful where, if Tom's going multiple times, he probably found it helpful versus not. So that's a really exciting component. So I often hear from students, oh, we don't have this supports to help them. Encourage them to connect with my office or connect with the study buddies. And I am very optimistic that they'll find their needs are being met. In addition to all of that support, we do have a writing center on campus, and this is staffed by our director, Chloe Hansen. So the writing center is in Sideland Hall, which is where most of our English division is, and they can help with any part of the writing process, from the thesis to generating citations. We found moving it into the Sideland Hall. It's in a little bit of a smaller classroom. Students have been using it as a space just to do work, which is really exciting. But we also hire from a wide variety of majors. It's not just the English major. We have art history, we have psychology. So it's kind of nice that the writing consultant can talk to that specific discipline. We have multiple tutors who know like MLA, APA, and those different citation rules. So again, if your students maybe struggling with writing or struggling to get the writing process going, I would heavily encourage them to connect with the Writing Center, especially as now we're heading in towards the end of the semester. I'm sure there's a lot of writing assignments, senior shows, things of that nature. So we found that we help with a lot of different writing samples. It's not just the traditional essay. And the final piece that I wanted to talk to you about the academic support is what we call academic consultation. So if you recall, all of those graduate students that I had mentioned, our graduate students work with any students on what we call this academic consultation. And really it's any skill development that the student wants to work on, whether that's time management, note-taking, etc. I found in more recent semesters that students have been using us as an accountability partner. So I've had some students where I'll meet with on every week, and they outline, hey, Chris, I have all these assignments to complete by next week. Here's my plan. And sometimes it's like, great, that's a great plan. Go and run with it. Other times it might be, okay, rather than doing everything on Sunday, let's look at your schedule and see if we can sprinkle some of those assignments throughout the week. And then we'll meet the following week. Things went great. Okay, let's continue that pattern. Okay, things didn't go as planned. Let's talk about why that was and trying to identify a new success plan. Again, I can't reiterate this enough. It's easier to build that foundation at the beginning of the semester than trying to catch up later, but we're certainly happy to help at any point in the process. So switching gears, I wanted to highlight that exam proctoring. So we proctor for exams for all of our students with disabilities for that extended time, reduced distraction environment, et cetera. But we also are here to help for any exam proctoring for students who might have missed their exam due to an extenuating circumstance, whether it was a sporting event, they were ill, whatever that might be. The nice thing to know about our space, we have white noise machines, we have headphones, so I find it pretty conducive for students. We do sanitize the headphones, but if students wanted to use like those, almost like the yellow in-ear ones, we have a bunch of packs that students can just take and utilize themselves. So helpful resource to know about. And then the final thing I just wanted to kind of share, as I alluded to, finals and the final weeks of the semester. Just some tips maybe you would like to share with your students. I think the very first step is determining when that final is, what is on the final, and maybe chunking those study sessions into chunks. And they can always meet with our consultants for additional tips. I think our consultants is exactly how it sounds, almost like a business consultant, where it's refining practice. How does this get to the next level? So that's my area. I think, Jenny, you said we'll do questions at the very end, or?
Well, we can do questions now. I haven't seen any come through in the chat.
Okay.
So everybody, remember, you can submit your questions throughout the presentation and I'll kind of batch them up. But for now, it looks like we don't have any yet. So you must have been very thorough, Chris. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to note, I heard you say connect early and often, and that is a recurring theme that we've been hearing from folks as we've done these webinars. So that's a good takeaway for everybody to convey to your student. And we just got a question. Okay, Chris, can you speak to how accommodations work with study abroad programs?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, that one's a little bit more complex. So how that will work is the student will work with our study abroad coordinator and request accommodations through that institution. So our accommodations are governed by ADA, Americans with Disability Act, with study abroad, they will be going to a different country, which ADA doesn't cover. But I found our students are able to receive those similar accommodations at their host institution. They just need to request it directly from that other institution.
Thank you. Okay, folks, you are welcome to continue to submit questions, and we will, if any more come up for Chris, we can get to those at the end. Thank you, Chris, again.
Thanks.
And now I would like to introduce Kara Taylor, who is a licensed mental health counselor, and she's here to talk with us a little bit about our wellness center here at Alfred.
All right, thank you. I am the Director of Counseling Services through the Wellness Center here at Alfred. And let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, everyone can hear and see. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I want to, just briefly go over what services we offer here through the Wellness Center, starting with health services. So I like to describe the Wellness Center health services as sort of like somewhere between, like a nurse's office, like your student might have had in high school, and a urgent care center. So we have a staff of 2 nurse practitioners and 2 or 3 nursing professionals who can provide services kind of across the spectrum. A lot of testing. We can do testing for flu, strep, COVID. We can do kind of basic blood work and labs. And we offer a lot of like women's health and reproductive health services. So that could be like pap tests, breast exams, STI testing, UTI testing, things like that. Something to note about our health services is that all of our, well, the vast majority of services are covered through your student activities fee. You're already paying for everything, and there are no additional fees for services. We don't run or bill through your insurance. There are a handful of exceptions to that, like very minimal fees for example, I think it's like there's like a $5 fee for the processing of a strep test, or like some basic lab work, things like that. All of the fees are, I would say, between $5 and $15, and they get billed to your to the student account. And let's see, yeah. And then as far as like for appointments, we are, oh, that was what I was trying to think of. So one of the other services that we have is there is a small sort of, there are some limited like pharmacy services. Like we do keep a certain amount of like antibiotics and basic like medications like that. So let's say your student comes in and gets tested for strep, it's positive, we're able to send them home with a round of antibiotics that day, so they don't have to deal with going to the pharmacy. And again, that is just like very, very low cost, like $5 or $10. And typically the cost for those medications are lower than what you would pay through your insurance or going to the pharmacy. So that's just like a nice time saver for things like antibiotics. As far as appointments, for health services, especially, like we can usually get people in day of or next day. Of course, if there's an emergency, if you fell down, if you're bleeding, you can come in and walk, and we'll try to meet that need as quickly as possible and within our scope and what's appropriate. Obviously, if somebody's really bleeding, they need to go to the hospital, and we will direct them there. As far as other health services in the area, we generally, if something does fall outside of our scope, for example, like we don't have facilities for x-rays, or we can't, treat like serious injuries, things like that, we would utilize, most likely utilize Alfred's ambulance service, which is free, to transport to one of the local hospitals, either St. James Hospital in Hornell or is it Jones Hospital? I think in Wellsville, both of which are about 20 minutes away. And there are also urgent care centers located in both of those towns. Yeah, I think that covers health. Moving on to counseling services. I'm a counselor, and I oversee counseling. I've been a counselor here at Alfred for, I think this is my fifth year. I'm also an alum of Alfred University and did my master's through the AU counseling graduate program. So always happy to talk that up. I wouldn't be where I am without Alfred. So as far as counseling services, we're able to offer like personal one-on-one individual counseling, group counseling. We do a certain amount of consultation with parents, faculty, and staff. So, what that means is just sort of, if you as a parent have some concerns about your kid, and something mental health related, and you just kind of want to talk to a mental health professional about that. We are able to do that kind of within the limits of HIPAA. So, if your student hasn't come in yet for services, they're not currently utilizing services through us, but you have some questions, just basic, like what should I be encouraging them to do, or how should I be thinking about this mental health issue? We're happy to answer any questions about that and provide, some guidance on what might be the best steps moving forward. If they're a current student, if we're seeing them already, then obviously we cannot disclose any information. We have to stay within HIPAA regulations. Another service that we have is psychiatric services. We contract with a outside provider, a psychiatric nurse practitioner, for some limited psych coverage and medication management. So in some cases, like if I might be seeing a student for counseling, it becomes clear that, we might want to supplement their treatment with medication. They're able to see our provider here. And he's here twice a month. And there are some fees associated with seeing that provider, since he's an outside provider. But it's like I think it's $30 or $40 per session to meet with him, but that can, cover medication management. And then we also offer crisis and after hours emergency support. Just to kind of touch a little bit on some of what I think is positive about what we can offer here at AU as far as counseling, or what maybe sets us apart a little bit. Something that I appreciate a lot about our counseling services here is in general, like, we kind of approach counseling from I would say like a generalist perspective, right? We're seeing a lot of students with a lot of different presenting concerns. So we tend to approach it kind of from a like general, like, what's going on, let's figure out what's going on and try to best support and build skills and things like that. I approach counseling through sort of a what we call brief counseling or solution focused lens. So we're trying to focus on problem solving and skill building, but we also don't have any specific session limits here at Alfred. A lot of universities might have, you can get 4 or 5 sessions a semester, or even, maybe 4 or 5 sessions a year, and then you get referred out. Here at Alfred, we definitely try to approach things from a like problem solving perspective, so that, you're not in therapy forever, but we don't have any specific session limits. So we really try to cater our treatment approach to the individual student. And again, that kind of tends to focus more around skill building, coping skills, emotion regulation skills, managing anxiety, depression, things like that. Just to touch briefly on what crisis and after hours support looks like here. So if it's during the daytime, we have walk-ins available during business hours from 8:30 to 4:30. And this is for students who are experiencing something urgent that requires immediate support, or if there's any concerns about safety to self or others. This could also look like, you just got really bad news. Maybe somebody passed away and you're processing the shock of that. We will talk to students who are having a panic attack or something like that, something that's very urgent and kind of like in the moment. We always have a counselor kind of designated to take those walk-ins. And then we encourage any other counseling like appointments to be scheduled in advance in order to allow for us to be able to take walk-ins. After hours, we, for the most part, coverage is provided through public safety, which is, public safety on campus. And if there are any concerns about safety, like as connected to mental health, we do have a counselor on call 24/7, or I guess I should say outside of business hours. And so, if a student is having a mental health crisis, and they would call public safety and then ask to speak to the counselor on call, and we can talk to them to kind of determine what makes sense, whether that's like, making them an appointment the next day for counseling, or if there is a like immediate safety concern, potentially transporting them to the hospital. And then, of course, I also listed here, our after hours, there's 988 for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And then we also have access to a peer-to-peer service through the SUNY system, which is so it's a peer hotline that I encourage students to use off hours if they just need somebody to talk to, because I know sometimes it's like students will want somebody to talk through something because it feels very urgent, or it is very urgent, but it's not a safety issue. They're not having suicidal thoughts or anything like that. So they don't feel like, well, why would I don't want to call the suicide hotline, because like, that's not what I'm dealing with, but like, I really need to talk to somebody. And the SUNY peer-to-peer hotline can be a really great, to fill that gap. Cause you don't have to be an immediate crisis in order to use that service. But yeah, there's somebody to talk to, kind of again, during like evening and weekend hours. Also through the Wellness Center, we offer wellness education. We have a full-time wellness educator who provides educational programming, workshops, things like that throughout the campus community. Really like all over. Like we've done programming in residence halls with Res Life staff. We've gone into classrooms, clubs, things like that. Some of the recent programming that's been pretty, I think like well attended and has gone over well. We have these QPR suicide awareness trainings on a regular basis, usually like at least 2 or 3 times a semester. QPR is an organization that is involved in educating both mental health professionals as well as just like kind of community members on how to best approach and support people to reduce deaths by suicide and increase awareness. And so we provide these trainings that are on the community level to students, really teaching students, professors, staff members, kind of getting as many people across the campus community trained to be comfortable in like recognizing potential warning signs of suicide, and like noticing and have like learning the vocabulary and becoming more comfortable to, like open up a conversation with somebody that they might be concerned about, and then direct them to a higher level of support, whether that's us or, if it's immediate risk, then they would go to the hospital. But QPR has been a really successful program for, again, just trying to get as many members of the community trained in these skills as possible. We've also done a lot of Narcan administration training over the last couple of years. And again, that's like really taking this community approach of like, we're all safer. The more people we have trained in some of these interventions, the like healthier and safer we are as a campus community. So that's been sort of our a big focus of our approach the last couple of years. The Wellness Center oversees the food pantry on campus. We do have a pantry that's open to everybody. And I don't have the hours listed here because that varies a lot based on volunteer support. But in general, like, we do have a food pantry on campus, which is open to both students and community members. And really, it's to just add an extra layer of safety and support to ensure that the community is, having our basic needs met. We have a place on what we call the Mind Spa, which is a room here in the Wellness Center. And it's really just kind of like a quiet, wellness-oriented space that students can essentially book the way that they would make an appointment. They can call and just say, like, can I use the Mind Spa? Is it available? And reserve it for an hour. And it's great if you just need like a space to get away. We have like a pretty good like massage chair. There's a light therapy lamp. We've got weighted blankets. We've got acupressure mats, yoga mats, things like that. Just to have a place for students to come and like get away. And I think a lot of the time this gets utilized like, to get some privacy from a roommate, or, to have space to do like meditation or yoga or things like that. And again, that's available anytime the Wellness Center is open, and it's located right here within the Wellness Center. I want to touch very briefly on our patient portal. We implemented this past academic year, and it has been a really helpful tool for managing like new student paperwork, immunization paperwork, and health forms, things like that. Information on how, like, what paperwork is required and how to access the portal is all on our website. There's also a link here. But if your student is incoming, you should have or will soon receive information on how to go about submitting immunization records and health records. And that's very important. They are due by July 15th. And the patient portal just makes that, it streamlines that a lot, makes it a lot easier than it used to be when we were kind of manually organizing, going through immunization forms. So highly recommend kind of getting that taken care of as soon as possible for your incoming student. Some other things, that students can do through the patient portal is, they can like cancel appointments, check in for appointments, submit kind of like appointment specific paperwork. So if they need to do like a little assessment before they get started in their appointment, they can do that right there in the portal. And they can also make appointments to use the Mind Spa. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I've just kind of got our basic information here, a link to our website for more information. Again, I'm the Director of Counseling Services, Kara. There's my email. We also have a Director of Health Services, Sue Hendy. Her email is there if you have any like specific health related questions or any just general questions about the Wellness Center. You can always call our front desk, which the number is there, 2400. So I think that's kind of it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kara. I do have a few questions for you that have come in through the chat. So the first one is, how is the availability of group counseling options? How is that communicated to students?
So group counseling is sort of an ongoing challenge, I'll be honest. It's hard to kind of get engagement. We try every semester, and some semesters are more successful than others as far as getting a like successful group going. But yeah, I mean, I think we use kind of the expected channels. first of all, there's just referrals through counseling. So like if I meet with somebody and it becomes clear that one-on-one individual counseling might not be the best intervention, then, we might just directly refer somebody into a counseling group. We tend to put up, just kind of like posters all over the place, posted on our website, social media, kind of all the ways that you try to get information out there for groups. And it's something that we're definitely like kind of strategizing to try to get more utilization of groups, because there are certain things where like groups really are the better intervention. Like it's a better option than individual one-on-one counseling. It's just hard to get buy-in from students because they don't always show up to group things, but they tend to show up more for one-on-one things. So we're really working on how to increase our engagement there.
Thank you. And one other question for you. Are students able to bring emotional support animals into the clinic for appointments?
So we would probably have to look at it on a case-to-case basis. It might just depend on the animal, what kind of animal it is. And I would have to defer to health services for that. From a counseling perspective, like all for it. But since we are an integrated center with health services, we just have to make sure that we're like staying up to code for any of our medical spaces. So that's something we would probably assess on a case-to-case basis.
Okay, so the student would just ask before their appointment to make sure that was
Yep.
okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great, thank you. That is all the questions I see right now for you, Kara. We did get one more for Chris. If a student receives meal or living accommodations, do they need to reapply each year?
No. So in their approval letter, it would know that they've been approved either for, there have been some that we've done where it's just a academic year. And in that, it would know it was for the 23-24 academic year. But more often than not, the majority it's for your duration here at Alfred University.
Great, thank you. And I believe that is it. I see no more questions. So thank you so much to Chris, Kara, and Tom for being here to present about some of our options to help your student find success here at Alfred. And thank you very much to all of you for attending today and for trusting us with this part of your student's journey. Feel free to reach out to any of us with questions as they come up. And I wish you and your student a happy final 3 weeks of the semester. And I hope that move out goes smoothly for you in a few weeks here and that you have a great summer. Take care.
Thank you.